The anime opens with our protagonist, Rentaro Aijo, an ordinary high school student. After meeting the girl he has a crush on in private, he finally decides to confess his feelings. She admits that he's a genuinely great guy, and even says she likes him too. But out of nowhere, she blurts out that the thought of dating him disgusts her, rejecting him completely. After racking up an unbelievable total of 100 rejections, Rentaro visits a shrine to pray for better luck in love before he completely loses hope. That's when the god of the shrine suddenly appears. After proving that he's the real deal, the god tells Rentaro not to worry because fate has already decided that he'll meet his soulmate. He explains that whenever soulmates meet, they'll feel a powerful jolt run through their bodies and instantly fall in love. On top of that, Rentaro is destined to meet 100 soulmates during high school, giving him more than enough girls to choose from. A month later, Rentaro's first day of high school finally arrives. As he heads to his classroom, he accidentally bumps into two girls, Hikari Hanazono and Karane Inda. The moment he looks into their eyes, that mysterious electric sensation surges through all three of them, and Rentaro immediately realizes that these two must be his soulmates. As he tries to help them up, both girls instantly begin acting differently, overwhelmed by their newfound feelings for him. Hikari, being much bolder, pretends she injured her ankle so he'll carry her, while Karane, staying true to her extremely tsundere personality, ends up copying her. As Rentaro carries them like the gentleman he is, they overhear a group of girls talking about a rumor claiming that if you confess with a pink four-leaf clover picked from the school courtyard, your confession is guaranteed to succeed. Both Hikari and Karane immediately begin searching for one, but even after spending hours looking, neither of them manages to find it. In the end, though, it doesn't really matter. Rentaro's constant support and genuine kindness give Hikari the courage to confess because she simply can't hold back her feelings anymore, and Karane soon follows in her own awkward way. That leaves Rentaro in an impossible situation because the shrine god later reveals a horrifying truth. If he chooses one soulmate over the other, the girl he rejects will eventually die. The reason is that having a soulmate is a miraculous blessing that consumes an entire lifetime's worth of luck. In other words, anyone rejected by their destined soulmate will be plagued by endless misfortune and ultimately be doomed. With no obvious solution, Rentaro initially considers secretly dating both girls at the same time, but when he finally meets with them, he selfishly asks if they'll both agree to be his girlfriends instead. He does it because, after seeing how sincerely they confess their feelings, he can't bring himself to betray them with a lie. Although Karane is far from thrilled by the idea, Rentaro completely melts both of their hearts by revealing that he spent the entire night searching for two four-leaf clovers to present alongside his heartfelt request. Hikari is the first to accept, and after seeing her answer, Karane eventually gives in as well, making both of them Rentaro's official girlfriends. Now that their relationship has officially begun, both Hikari and Karane become desperate to steal a kiss from Rentaro, especially after finding out that he's never kissed anyone before. Since neither of them is particularly good at making subtle moves, Rentaro quickly figures out exactly what they're trying to do. Wanting to treat them equally, he comes up with a game where, in theory, neither girl will know who got the first kiss. Unfortunately, thanks to a series of mishaps, the entire plan falls apart. In the end, Rentaro suggests that all three of them share a kiss at the same time. Karane initially considers the idea completely unacceptable, but once again she gives in. However, just as they're about to kiss, Rentaro gets so caught up in the moment that he ends up posing as if he's trying to summon aliens instead. Later, Rentaro heads to the library to borrow a book. As he reaches for one on the shelf, another girl happens to grab it at the exact same time. The instant their eyes meet, sparks fly and a powerful jolt races through both of their bodies. Rentaro immediately recognizes the familiar sensation and realizes that she's another one of his soulmates, a girl named Shizuka Yoshimoto. After handing her the book, Shizuka communicates by having Rentaro read specific lines from the novel she's carrying, though he struggles to understand what she's trying to say. Because of that, she apologizes and explains that she's always had a hard time talking to other people. Even so, Rentaro treats her with genuine kindness and asks if she could recommend some books for him to read. Since he can't officially borrow them because his library pass won't be ready for another week, Shizuka lends him the novel she's carrying, The Circlet of Love. As Rentaro reads it, he discovers it's the story of a princess and a prince who fight against every obstacle standing in their way, constantly struggling against fate itself. Since it's only the first volume, Shizuka lends him the second one after he finishes it. This time, however, Rentaro sits down beside her so they can spend some time together. During their conversation, he praises her incredible ability to instantly find the exact sentences she wants to express with nothing more than a quick glance through the pages. But Shizuka doesn't believe she deserves such kind words. She confesses that, because of the way she is, she's never had anyone she could truly call a friend. The only place where she ever found comfort was within the pages of her books. That's why she's sincerely grateful to Rentaro for accepting the person she's become instead of avoiding her. Rentaro asks why he would ever avoid her, but Shizuka doesn't answer. Instead, she suddenly asks to borrow the first volume again, promising she'll return it as soon as possible. The next day, Shizuka notices that Rentaro hasn't come to see her. By chance, she spots him spending time with Hikari and Karane, making her realize that the two girls are his girlfriends. That only confirms what she already expected, that he wouldn't always have time to spend reading books with her. Those thoughts bring back painful painful memories from her past, when her classmates constantly mocked her for communicating through books. Even worse, her own mother would become furious over that habit, going so far as to pressure her into becoming a normal girl. The memories leave Shizuka convinced that she'll end up alone again, but while she's quietly sitting in the library, Rentaro comes to visit her. The first thing he does is ask her to install an app, assuring her that it's completely safe. Once she does, he sends her a very special file. Shizuka is stunned when she opens it. It's the entire first volume of The Circlet of Love, even though she knows the novel has never been released in digital format. Rentaro then tells her to tap one of the lines, and a synthetic voice immediately reads it aloud. As she looks through the file, Shizuka is left speechless after realizing that Rentaro manually typed the entire book into the app by hand. He explains that if they keep using the physical book, both of them have to stare at the pages instead of each other. But with this app, they'll finally be able to look one another in the eyes while they talk. He also tells her that he can't even imagine how difficult speaking out loud must be for her, so he has no intention of forcing her to change. Instead, he simply wants to help her communicate with other people, and he hopes this will make things at least a little easier. A few seconds later, Shizuka can no longer hold back her tears. Using the app for the very first time, the first thing she chooses to say is that she loves him. Afterwards, she quickly adds that she isn't expecting an answer because she knows his heart already belongs to someone else. Even so, she wanted to tell him how she truly feels. Seeing her pour out her heart, Rentaro finally realizes something important. His feelings aren't simply because she's one of his soulmates, nor because he wants to save her life. Once he truly understands the bond they share, he doesn't hesitate any longer and tells Shizuka that he loves her too. He then rejects the message of the story they both cherish, declaring that if fate itself stands in their way, then they'll simply defeat fate together, leaving Shizuka deeply moved. Later, Rentaro explains everything that happened to Hikari and Karane and asks for their permission to make Shizuka his girlfriend as well. Karane is naturally furious, while Hikari reacts in the exact opposite way. Although it sparks plenty of arguments, Rentaro promises that he'll make all three of them happy, and his unwavering determination is ultimately enough for everything to work out in the end. Since Shizuka still seems a little uncomfortable around the other girls, Rentaro comes up with a tickling game to help everyone loosen up. As expected, he keeps winning every round, giving each of the girls their punishment afterward. The first one to beat him is Shizuka, but all she can bring herself to do is give him a few gentle pokes. Soon after, Rentaro excuses himself to use the restroom. With the three girls left alone, Karane points out that Shizuka has been holding herself back around Rentaro. She admits it annoys her because that's no way for one of his girlfriends to act. After talking things through, Shizuka finally confesses what's really bothering her. She's terrified that Rentaro might compare the three of them. She knows Hikari and Karane each have their own wonderful qualities, while she feels like she has nothing to offer. On top of that, she's the newest girlfriend in the group. Hearing that, Karane is the first to reassure her, pointing out that Shizuka's small and delicate appearance is one of the things that makes her so adorable. Together, she and Hikari convince Shizuka that she shouldn't keep suppressing her feelings. As one of Rentaro's girlfriends, she has every right to ask him for whatever she wants. Meanwhile, Rentaro quietly watches everything through the small window in the classroom door. He realizes there was never any need for him to step in. If he wanted the girls to grow closer, the best thing he could do was simply give them the space to figure things out on their own. Now that she's no longer holding herself back, Shizuka works up the courage to ask Rentaro for a kiss on the lips. Without hesitation, he grants her wish, and the kiss leaves Shizuka so overwhelmed with happiness that she's completely swept off her feet. Not wanting to be left out, Hikari and Karane quickly claim their share of Rentaro's affection as well, leaving the four of them enjoying a warm and comfortable new dynamic together. Later on, the students gather to check the results of their latest exams. Rentaro heads back to the classroom after realizing he forgot his phone. There, he runs into Nano AI, one of his classmates. He asks if she's going to check the test scores, but she calmly replies that it would simply be a waste of time. The moment she turns to look at him, a familiar electric shock surges through both of their bodies. However, since Nano doesn't seem interested in talking, Rentaro decides to leave her alone. When he returns to the girls, they discover that the student who earned a perfect score is none other than Nano herself. Karane explains that, according to the rumors, Nano values precision and efficiency above everything else. She's said to have an answer for practically any question imaginable. By pure coincidence, Rentaro ends up paired with Nano during chemistry lab, giving him the chance to see firsthand just how obsessively efficient she really is. When Rentaro accidentally cuts his finger during the experiment, Nano immediately slips it into her mouth so her saliva can disinfect the wound as quickly and efficiently as possible. After class, Rentaro decides he wants to get to know her better, but their conversation quickly takes an unexpected turn. Nano bluntly states that things like having fun or going on vacation are unnecessary because they don't improve her grades or contribute to her future. Rentaro tries to reason with her, insisting that grades aren't everything and that enjoying life is what gives it meaning. But according to Nano's perfectly logical worldview, anything that doesn't help build a better future has no value whatsoever. Her conviction is so absolute that Rentaro briefly wonders whether she really could be one of his soulmates. Later that evening, Nano struggles to deal with the unfamiliar emotions swirling inside her. She even scolds herself for instinctively sucking on Rentaro's injured finger, unable to understand why she did did it. Trying to clear her mind, she repeatedly writes out the digits of pi, but even that fails to distract her. Eventually, she reaches a conclusion. The next time she meets Rentaro, she straightforwardly tells him that she likes him and wants them to date. After a brief pause, Rentaro happily returns her feelings. To his surprise, however, Nano rejects him. She explains that she only confessed because she expected him to turn her down. Since he didn't, she has no choice but to reject him herself. Nano goes on to explain that she wants to eliminate these feelings altogether because love eventually leads to marriage and children, things she has absolutely no interest in. As far as she's concerned, teenage romance is nothing but an inefficient waste of time. Rentaro tells her that he's already survived 100 rejections, so giving up on her won't be nearly that easy. Nano admits that she wouldn't be able to simply walk away either, knowing she has feelings for him as well. That's when Rentaro proposes a deal. He asks her to go on a single date with him, promising that if she still feels the same afterward, he'll accept whatever decision she makes and let her go. Their date takes place at an amusement park, and Rentaro can't hide his excitement since it's his very first real date. From there, they spend the day trying all kinds of attractions, though Nano can't quite understand the purpose behind any of them. Eventually, they board the Ferris wheel, where Nano unexpectedly reveals that she's afraid of heights. Rentaro quietly sits beside her and gently takes her hand. A moment later, Nano instinctively intertwines her fingers with his. When the date comes to an end, Rentaro shows her all the pictures he took throughout the day, including several of the two of them together. Since Nano concludes that the date itself had no practical value, Rentaro decides to throw the photos away. But before he can, Nano instinctively snatches them from his hand. Realizing what just happened, Rentaro smiles and apologizes before sharing a simple saying with her: "You can't lose something you never had." Then he points out that she was just afraid of losing those photos, proving that she now possesses something she didn't have before. He tells her that today, she gained something that can't be measured with numbers or expressed with words. It may not help her future in any tangible way, but it's so precious that she doesn't want to lose it. Nano finally breaks down in tears as she realizes what those feelings truly mean. Without any hesitation this time, she once again tells Rentaro that she wants them to be together. Now that their relationship is official, she boldly surprises him with a kiss on the lips, completely catching him off guard. Later, Rentaro introduces Nano to Hikari, Karane, and Shizuka before asking for their permission to make her his girlfriend as well. The girls welcome Nano without much trouble, though they do complain that she got to enjoy a private date with him first. To make things fair, they all decide that their next outing should be a trip to a theme park together. As soon as they arrive at the water park, Karane covers herself with an extra layer because she feels self-conscious about her swimsuit, deciding to sit down and rest instead. Meanwhile, Shizuka simply drifts away on her inflatable tube, letting the gentle current carry her along. Rentaro ends up spending time with Hikari and Nano, but the two suddenly turn it into a competition to win all of his attention by comparing whose figure is more impressive. As a result, Rentaro gets a massive nosebleed after getting a little too carried away, causing both girls to rush over and try reviving him with mouth-to-mouth. Unfortunately, they end up getting distracted by how irresistible his lips are instead. Just as Hikari and Nano are about to go look for help, a group of guys notices they're alone and decides to hit on them. Without a second thought, Nano steps in to protect Hikari, instantly blinding one of the men by jabbing him in the eyes with her fingers. The rest of the group immediately becomes hostile, so to avoid making the situation worse, Nano offers to go with them. She prioritizes Hikari's safety because she knows how important she is to Rentaro. Hikari quickly steps in to stop her, telling Nano that she still has a lot to learn about Rentaro. If anything happened to Nano, he would be just as heartbroken. Meanwhile, Karane notices the commotion. She rushes over to Rentaro, and the moment he hears that two of his girlfriends are in danger, he instantly snaps out of his daze. The men refuse to believe that both girls are actually dating him, so they challenge Rentaro to kiss each of them to prove it. Rentaro has no interest in putting on a public show, but Hikari and Nano eagerly claim his lips themselves, leaving no room for doubt and convincing the troublemakers to back off and leave. With that situation resolved, Rentaro realizes that Shizuka is nowhere to be found and immediately sets off to search for her. It turns out she has drifted onto the small island in the middle of the pool and can't get back on her own. To make matters worse, her phone has completely run out of battery. Unable to get anyone's attention, Shizuka finally gathers the courage to call for help using her own soft, adorable voice. Rentaro is the one who hears her, immediately recognizing where the sound came from and rushing straight to her side. As he carries her back in his arms, Shizuka is so overwhelmed with happiness that she quietly steals a kiss on his lips. After returning to the others, Rentaro pulls Karane aside for a private conversation. Earlier, he noticed that she kept glancing at Hikari's and Nano's chests, and he correctly guesses that she compared herself to them in the changing room. Realizing he hit the mark, Rentaro gently removes the cover-up she'd been wearing, revealing her swimsuit. Karane nearly dies of embarrassment, but Rentaro doesn't even flinch as she repeatedly smacks him in a panic. Instead, he looks her straight in the eyes and sincerely tells her that she looks absolutely beautiful. He wraps her in a warm embrace and reminds her that every one of his girlfriends is unique in her own way. To him, she couldn't possibly be any more beautiful than she is right now, making it clear just how precious she truly is to him. With the perfect moment unfolding between them, the two share a heartfelt kiss, strengthening the bond they already share. With nothing else left to worry about, all five of them them finally spend the rest of the day simply enjoying the water park together. On another day, while hurrying through the school hallways, Rentaro locks eyes with yet another soulmate, a red-haired student he has never seen before. However, when he returns to that classroom later, the person he finds isn't the girl he expected, but a much smaller student named Kusuri Yakuzen, who convinces him to stay for some tea while she works on one of her chemistry experiments. Unable to resist her persistence, Rentaro gives in, and Kusuri has him drink a magnetic potion that immediately causes metal objects to stick to him. Afterward, she drinks another potion with the opposite effect, sending her flying straight into Rentaro's arms. The unexpected moment leaves him completely captivated by just how adorable she is. That sweet atmosphere is quickly interrupted when Kusuri casually blurts out that if they both drank the same potion while Rentaro was upside down, something adults only would happen. Definitely more information than he wanted to hear. As she continues showing him the many medicines she's invented, Rentaro can't help thinking she's incredibly cute. After a series of unexpected mishaps, Kusuri's body suddenly begins to grow older. She explains that this is actually her true appearance, and that she became child-sized after accidentally drinking a failed immortality potion she created herself. She also reveals that she only returned to her normal age because she accidentally swallowed a little of a neutralizing medicine a few moments earlier. Later on, Rentaro introduces Kusuri to the rest of his girlfriends, hoping she'll officially join the group as well. True to herself, Kusuri immediately starts interacting with everyone by handing out all kinds of bizarre medicines she's developed. Once things settle down a bit, she shares her dream of joining a research team someday so she can continue creating even more amazing pharmaceuticals. Moments later, something completely unexpected happens. By mistake, Kusuri serves the girls a special tea that had actually been intended for Rentaro. The medicine was supposed to give him an overwhelming urge to kiss. Rentaro points out that he doesn't need a drug to make him want to kiss his girlfriends. Unfortunately, the medicine was never designed for women, and its side effects send all four girls into a zombie-like state, leaving them with an uncontrollable desire to kiss Rentaro. Rentaro and Kusuri flee as best they can, deciding that the laboratory is their best option so Kusuri can prepare more of the neutralizing medicine. Along the way, Rentaro has to deal with Shizuka after she accidentally trips. However, when he carries her to the infirmary, she is still completely overwhelmed by her impulses and takes every opportunity to savor him without stopping. Rentaro manages to escape by hanging her from a hook, but as he continues on his way, he soon finds himself having to deal with Hakari and Karane. Knowing both of them so well, he takes advantage of their argument over who gets to claim his lips first and brings them together, making them kiss each other instead. The moment it happens, the two of them end up enjoying it so much that they completely forget about Rentaro and keep making out with each other non-stop. The final boss turns out to be Nano, who has managed to retain much of her intelligence. However, while Rentaro keeps her distracted, Kusuri gets the chance to do her part, successfully returning Nano to normal with the medicine. With everything finally over, Kusuri apologizes to Rentaro for the disaster, blaming herself once again for letting her obsession with medicine get out of hand. Rentaro, however, reassures her that this side of her is one of the things that makes her so charming, and reminds her that, in the end, she was the one who saved everyone. He then tells her just how much he loves her, and the two share a sweet kiss to close the moment. With her confidence restored, Kusuri finally rejoins the others, free of anything that could hold them back or cause them any more worry. A new day begins with Hakari organizing a group date at a flower park, where a bouquet toss event is being held. Whoever catches the bouquet wins the chance to wear a flower-themed wedding dress and take a commemorative photo with their partner, a prize that every girl is eager to claim. For Hakari, however, it means even more. Ever since she was little, she has dreamed of wearing that wedding dress and experiencing the romantic moment she has always longed for. She's determined to make that dream come true. Once the event begins, they quickly run into trouble when a group of gorillas becomes obsessed with winning. They even unleash a tornado-like special attack in an attempt to claim the bouquet for themselves. As if it were fate, Shizuka is launched high into the air by the spinning attack, all because she was holding a towel to cheer on the Rentaro family. After catching the bouquet mid-air, she loses the only thing keeping her airborne, but she's saved thanks to the girls' natural airbags. Karani can only be thankful she wasn't the one who had to help, for obvious reasons. After winning the event, Hakari offers the prize to Kusuri, after noticing how badly she wants the commemorative photo. Kusuri, however, gives it right back, knowing Hakari treasures that dream just as much as she treasures Rentaro. Even so, Hakari asks for everyone to be included in the picture, creating a beautiful family portrait of the Rentaro family. However, immediately afterward, Hakari suddenly asks Rentaro to break up with her, catching him completely off guard. Days pass without Hakari contacting him, so Rentaro decides to go directly to her house. Unfortunately, getting inside proves difficult due to the mansion's tight security. Eventually, he manages to speak with her over the phone, where Hakari reveals that her mother has discovered her relationship with Rentaro and the other girls. She completely disapproves of it, driven by an overwhelming desire to protect her beloved daughter. With the situation becoming so dire, Rentaro and the girls join forces to infiltrate the mansion and rescue Hakari, refusing to let things end this way. The group faces one obstacle after another, including a hallway filled with infrared lasers that, according to Rentaro, even James Bond himself wouldn't be able to get through. Fortunately, and quite conveniently for the plot, Kusuri happens to have a pair of infrared vision eye drops. The only side effect is that whoever uses them won't be able to see anything except the infrared beams. Using the drops to their advantage, Rentaro and Kurani successfully make their way through the corridor. However, the moment they reach Hikari's room, the security alarm is triggered. The two are immediately escorted to the room where Hikari's mother, Hahari Hanazono, is waiting. She makes it clear to Rentaro that she has no intention of believing his empty promises. When Rentaro refuses to give up, Hahari tells him that she gave birth to Hikari when she was only 13 years old, during her second year of middle school, and asks him why he thinks she made such a decision. Rentaro guesses that it's because she simply loves children, but Hahari immediately denies it. She explains that the man she loved had fallen terminally ill and was destined to die. Desperate to preserve a part of him, something that would prove he had existed, she chose to undergo artificial insemination and have his child, despite being only 13 years old. She admits it was an incredibly reckless decision, but says that kind of impulsiveness runs in both her and Hikari's blood. Hahari knows that Hikari could never fill the void left by the man she loved. That's why she's so determined to protect her daughter from experiencing the same heartbreak, especially if it means keeping her away from someone as much of a womanizer as Rentaro. After hearing her story, Rentaro can't hold back his tears. He tells Hahari that he feels exactly the same way, that he never wants Hikari to have any regrets, and that he'll never abandon her, even if it costs him his life. His tears wash away the eye drops, and the moment his vision clears, he shares that unmistakable spark with none other than Hahari herself. Having lost the love of her life at the age of 13 and gone years without ever feeling that spark again, Hahari is completely swept away by those overwhelming emotions once more, to the point of confessing to Rentaro that she wants them to start dating. Hahari quickly regains her composure, but instead of acting on her feelings, she decides to put Rentaro to the test to see whether he's truly capable of giving Hikari the happiness she deserves. To make sure he's telling the truth, she even uses a lie detector. Before the test can go on much longer, however, they learn that Hikari is attempting to jump out of her bedroom window. While Kurani holds Hahari back, Rentaro rushes straight to Hikari. He manages to talk her out of it, but just as she begins to come to her senses, she loses her footing and slips from the window. Without a second thought, Rentaro dives after her and catches her in midair. Unable to pull her back up because of her weight, the two begin falling together. Thinking fast, Rentaro kicks off the side of the building while holding on to Hikari, changing their trajectory just enough for them to crash safely into the fountain below. A few moments later, Kurani arrives and immediately slaps Hikari across the face for doing something so reckless. Seeing that Rentaro truly risked his life for her daughter, just as he had promised, Hahari finally gives the two of them her blessing. But Rentaro isn't finished yet. He turns to Hahari and tells her that she deserves to find happiness as well. Then, to everyone's complete shock, he asks her to become his girlfriend too. The other girls are, unsurprisingly, sent into an uproar. But since Hahari is one of Rentaro's soulmates, joining the family is simply inevitable. A little later, Rentaro learns more about the relationship Hahari shared with Hikari's father. It turns out she has never stopped loving him, even after his death, which is why she believes she has no right to fall in love with another man. Being the devoted boyfriend that he is, Rentaro gently tells her that she doesn't have to forget him. She can love both of them at the same time, and doing so doesn't make either love any less genuine. His words finally help Hahari stop letting the past hold her back and allow herself to embrace happiness once again. She then remembers something Hikari's father told her before he passed away. Knowing he wouldn't be able to stay by her side for the rest of her life, he asked her to save her first kiss for the person who would promise never to leave her. As though he could read her heart perfectly, Rentaro boldly leans in and kisses her on the lips. That kiss becomes intertwined with Hahari's cherished memory of her late husband, filling her heart with a profound sense of happiness. That very night, in an inexplicable turn of events, Rentaro has a supernatural encounter with Hikari's father himself. At first, the man isn't convinced that Rentaro can properly take care of both Hahari and Hikari, but after witnessing what an extraordinary boyfriend Rentaro truly is, he's finally able to entrust them to him and peacefully pass on to the afterlife. Later on, wanting to stay as close as possible to the man she loves, Hahari makes an absolutely outrageous decision. She buys the entire high school and announces herself as its new chairwoman, leaving all the girls completely stunned. On a new day, Hikari comes up with the brilliant idea of organizing a romantic activity to keep the spark alive, especially since it's been quite a while since everyone first started dating Rentaro back in the first season. Kusuri tries to help by preparing one of her inventions, but the medicine she's almost finished suddenly explodes. Since everyone gets caught in the blast, they unexpectedly end up swapping bodies. After the ensuing chaos, Rentaro manages to return everyone to their original bodies by kissing each of them on the lips, since his kisses make them so overwhelmingly happy that their souls are practically knocked back into place. Later, while at the school cafeteria, Rentaro notices a girl. The moment their eyes meet, that familiar spark races through both of them, a clear sign that she's another one of his soulmates. What catches his attention, however, is that she's wearing a middle school uniform, a comment that immediately irritates the girl, Kurumi Haraga. Ignoring him, Kurumi focuses on buying the lunch she's been looking forward to, only to realize she's forgotten her wallet. Rentaro buys the meal for her and invites her outside to share it together. Although Kurumi remains rather unfriendly at first, her entire attitude changes the moment she takes a bite of the delicious egg toast. She explains that that she's constantly hungry, and whenever she hasn't eaten, she becomes incredibly irritable. If she's craving a specific food and can't have it, her mood gets even worse. Feeling guilty for how she treated him, she apologizes, but Rentaro simply tells her not to worry about it. Later that day, Rentaro runs into Kurumi again, only to find that the snack she's craving has sold out. She decides to leave campus to look for it at a nearby convenience store. Rentaro reminds her that middle school students aren't allowed to leave the school grounds during lunch break, so he offers to go in her place. Suddenly, Kurumi pulls her hand away from his and snaps that she doesn't need his help, insisting he'd be better off leaving her alone. The instant she realizes what she just said, she runs off in embarrassment. Even after checking several stores, Kurumi still can't find what she's looking for. Frustrated and exhausted, she finally reaches her breaking point and vents her anger at herself. She laments how she always ends up taking her frustration out on other people whenever she's hungry, driving everyone away. She knows Rentaro had been nothing but kind to her despite her attitude, yet she still pushed him away. As she's making her way back to school, Rentaro catches up with her and asks her to come with him. To her surprise, he presents her with the menchikatsu sandwich she'd been searching for all along. Kurumi happily devours it, and Rentaro explains that he was able to get permission to leave campus to buy it for her, though it wasn't exactly an easy task. Curious, Kurumi asks why he's been treating her so kindly when he doesn't even know her name yet. Without hesitation, Rentaro tells her that he admires the way she genuinely appreciates food. The joy she shows while eating makes everything look delicious, and the happiness she brings to those around her is a special talent in itself. Already in love with him, Kurumi shyly returns the compliment. She finally tells him her name, and the two officially become a couple. When Rentaro introduces her to the rest of the girls, they warmly welcome her into the family. Kurumi, however, insists that the only person she's interested in dealing with is Rentaro. Not long afterward, Rentaro tells everyone about an upcoming gourmet battle festival where teams compete in culinary challenges. Kurumi initially plans to enter by herself, but because middle school students need parental permission to participate and her parents aren't available to provide it, she reluctantly agrees to join Rentaro's team instead. As soon as the festival begins, Kurumi insists on doing everything by herself. However, as the competition progresses, she's surprised to see just how hard the others are willing to work. Each of the girls has her own unique strengths, with some naturally excelling in areas where others don't. In the final round, Kurumi faces the reigning champion of the eating competition, and the challenge quickly escalates until she's gradually pushed to her absolute limit. Just when it seems everyone has reached the end of their endurance, Rentaro and the girls unexpectedly join the contest as well. They make it clear to Kurumi that they're helping because they want to, not because they have to, and that they'll support her no matter what she said to them earlier. As they continue emptying bowl after bowl of ramen, everyone eventually reaches their breaking point. At that moment, Rentaro convinces Kurumi to feed him herself. Since accepting food from his girlfriend is something he believes he should never refuse, he somehow manages to finish the last of it. That final push earns them the victory. Afterward, Kurumi finally comes to appreciate the other girls for who they are. She apologizes for the way she treated them throughout the day, but they simply welcome her as a member of the Rentaro family, holding no grudge against her whatsoever. A little later, Kurumi finds a moment alone with Rentaro and reminds him that after winning the competition, he still owed her reward, a kiss. On a new day, everyone gathers to spend some time together, and Hahari's personal maid, Maidome, is formally introduced to the group. The girls are immediately fascinated by the fact that she's never opened her eyes, and they become determined to see what they look like. Unfortunately, they're out of luck. Even Mei herself is no longer able to open them after keeping them closed for so many years. Everyone tries their own way of getting her to open her eyes, but Rentaro is the only one who succeeds, thanks to a joke that makes her burst into laughter. The catch is that Rentaro initially takes the credit for the joke, only to reveal afterward that it was actually Hahari who told it. Since Mei believes it's improper to laugh at anything involving her beloved mistress, learning that the joke had come from Hahari herself catches her completely off guard. The moment Mei reveals her dazzling seven-colored eyes, they meet Rentaro's gaze, and the unmistakable spark flashes between them, the undeniable sign that they're soulmates. Even though her feelings are unmistakable, Mei refuses to pursue a relationship with the man her mistress loves. However, the moment Hahari gives her blessing, Mei immediately turns to Rentaro and politely asks if he would like to go out with her. Later on, Hahari has Mei spend an entire day attending to Rentaro, so the two of them can enjoy some time together. However, Rentaro quickly realizes that having a normal date is nearly impossible because Mei is so deeply conditioned to follow orders that serving others comes naturally to her. Seeing how serious the issue is, Rentaro comes up with an unusual solution. Pretending to complain that her mere presence makes him feel too comfortable, he begins giving her impossible orders that she has no chance of fulfilling. Once Mei finally admits defeat, unable to carry out his requests, Rentaro gently tells her that simply being by his side is already enough. She doesn't have to obey his every command or devote herself to serving him because her existence alone has value. His words strike a chord with Mei, bringing back a memory from her past, the day Hahari rescued her during a fierce winter blizzard. Back then, Hahari had told her something very similar. Rentaro goes on to explain that when he loves someone, he's grateful simply because they're by his side. To him, the fact that Mei is alive is already a blessing in itself. He then tells tells her that he loves her and wants them to be together, leaving May completely captivated, though she still can't help treating his confession as if it were another order she has to obey. In the end, May officially joins the rest of the girls. Since the day's theme revolves around maids, everyone dresses in maid uniforms and holds a playful water gun battle. Although they all end up losing, May still makes sure to claim the kiss from Rentaro that she's earned. Later, she opens up about her past, revealing that her parents abandoned her because of their debts. Left to survive on the streets, she came close to freezing to death before Hahari found her and saved her life. As Rentaro leaves school one day, he notices a girl at the front gate recruiting members for the girls' baseball team. The moment their eyes meet, that familiar spark flashes between them, the unmistakable sign that they're soulmates. The sudden connection catches both of them off guard, but Rentaro happily introduces himself to the girl, a first-year student named Iku Suto. Iku explains that if the team doesn't win this time, it's going to be disbanded. To make matters worse, they don't even have enough players. Out of the 9 members they need, she's missing 8. In other words, she's the only one left. She quickly clarifies that the team actually had all 9 members until recently. They had promised each other they would win the national championship, but because of that dream, the other 8 players all left to train in the birthplace of baseball, the United States. Even so, Iku refuses to lose heart. She continues practicing until every muscle in her body aches, taking genuine pleasure in the pain, revealing that she's far from an ordinary girl. Wanting to help, Rentaro offers to assist with recruiting new teammates. Iku's very first request, however, is for him to hit her in the stomach with a baseball bat while she trains, a request Rentaro is, understandably, not thrilled about. Later, Iku has the misfortune of spotting Rentaro holding hands with Nano, leading her to realize that he already has a girlfriend. Even so, she works up the courage to confess her feelings to him. Instead of accepting them, however, Rentaro rejects her outright. To Iku's surprise, the rejection fills her with overwhelming delight, while Rentaro feels like he's practically dying inside after doing something so unthinkable. He then explains that he'd noticed she had seen him with another girl and realized she actually enjoyed the rejection, so he turned her down on purpose to indulge that side of her. Putting that aside, Rentaro sincerely returns her feelings. Before they officially start dating, however, he honestly tells her that she would be his 9th girlfriend. He promises that no matter how many girlfriends he has, he'll love every single one of them equally, even if it costs him his life. Without hesitation, Iku accepts. Rentaro then introduces her to the rest of the girls and asks everyone to help save the baseball team. They all throw themselves into training in their own unique ways, resulting in plenty of chaos along the way. As the game begins, things quickly take a turn for the worse. The opposing team's pitcher has a unique pitching technique that leaves the girls completely unable to hit the ball, and for some reason, even Iku can't figure out a way to deal with it. They manage to stay in the game thanks to their teamwork, but little by little, they're overwhelmed by the opposing team. Then, the rival team's captain comes up with the terrible idea of targeting the weakest player, Shizuka. She convinces her that she's nothing but a burden to the team and that she can't do anything right. Those words hit Shizuka hard, and as soon as the others learn about what happened, they somehow find the strength to turn the tide. And for some reason, that newfound power also comes with bright blonde, spiky hair. As they reach the final, the group discovers one of Iku's deepest insecurities. In the past, she accidentally injured a girl after hitting a home run, leaving her traumatized by the incident. To help her overcome it, Rentaro walks outside the stadium and asks her to hit the ball straight at him, promising that he'll catch it no matter what. That gives Iku the confidence she needs to hit the seemingly impossible pitch, securing the team's victory. Without hesitation, she runs over to Rentaro and rewards him with a well-deserved kiss on the lips, not caring in the slightest that they're barely wearing any clothes, because apparently that's what the plot demands. Since there are no classes, everyone heads to a karaoke place to enjoy something different. Knowing Shizuka so well, Rentaro encourages her to join in after overhearing her singing by herself near the drink station. Unfortunately, that turns into a complete disaster. The moment she starts singing, she radiates such an overwhelmingly adorable aura that everyone begins dropping unconscious one after another. Just when it seems like no one is left standing, Rentaro somehow manages to get back on his feet. He knows that if Shizuka sees everyone lying on the floor, she'll blame herself and end up heartbroken. Through sheer willpower, he stands beside her and sings along. The sight is so unbearably cute that it ends up knocking out everyone else all over again. After that, while visiting a shopping mall, Rentaro finally encounters his next soulmate. She confidently introduces herself as Mimimi Utsukushisugi, a proud second-year student at Nectar High School, the same school Rentaro attends. Swept away by her newfound feelings, Mimimi graciously grants him the privilege of becoming one of her suitors. However, she believes his appearance isn't worthy of standing beside her, so she takes him in for a complete makeover, since beauty happens to be her area of expertise. Once it's finished, even Rentaro has to admit he looks absolutely stunning, especially because his new appearance bears a striking resemblance to Nano's. As they sit together, they immediately attract everyone's attention, something that doesn't surprise Mimimi in the slightest. Although she proudly claims to be the embodiment of beauty, she admits that there was once someone who surpassed even her looks. For some reason, Nano is the first person that comes to Rentaro's mind. Meanwhile, a nearby couple can't stop staring at them. The girlfriend grows visibly jealous, and the two of them begin making rude comments. Mimimi couldn't care less. She explains that every penny she spends on her appearance was earned through her own hard hard work, and that true beauty isn't something money can buy, it's something you have to work for every single day. Trying to stand up for his girlfriend, the boyfriend deliberately splashes his drink on Mimimi, but Rentaro steps in and takes the hit instead. A few moments later, while running away from a security guard, the boyfriend slips on the spilled drink. Rentaro catches him before he takes a nasty fall, admitting that he can't bring himself to hate someone who's simply trying to protect the person he loves. Seeing Rentaro more clearly afterward, Mimimi removes his wig. She tells him that she now sees him as truly handsome for who he really is, and then confesses her love to him. As expected, Rentaro happily returns her feelings. Mimimi also takes the fact that he already has 9 girlfriends surprisingly well, reasoning that becoming girlfriend number 10 is actually perfect, a nice, round number. A few seconds later, Nano arrives with Shizuka, and Rentaro introduces them. However, Mimimi doesn't react very well. She reveals that Nano AI was the very person who surpassed her beauty and humiliated her in the past. Because of that, she refuses to be part of the same group as Nano and challenges her to a beauty contest to decide which one of them will leave the family. Rather than refusing, Nano accepts in her own unique way, striking a pose just like Clara, a reference that's just a little too obvious. When they reunite with the rest of the girls, Mimimi explains that the contest will consist of identifying the beautiful qualities each girlfriend possesses. At first, Nano takes the lead thanks to her incredible speed, but she runs into trouble when she can't identify what makes Shizuka beautiful, since she only sees her adorable side. Rentaro goes last, but to force the competition into a tie, he's left with no choice but to completely ruin his handsome appearance until he's practically unrecognizable. Just as Mimimi decides to leave, still unsatisfied with the outcome, Nano stops her and admits that back then, she never considered her feelings. She knows it's far too late to undo what happened, but after meeting Rentaro and the others, she's learned many important things. She's come to appreciate the value of spending time with the people you care about, the indescribable warmth of love, and she's also realized just how hurtful her actions in the past truly were. That's the real reason she agreed to take part in this contest, and even though she knows she has no right to ask anymore, if there's even the slightest chance, she'd like them to be friends. Mimimi is deeply moved by Nano's words, and we're shown flashbacks revealing that she had always admired Nano. In fact, she admired her so much that she secretly entered her into the very beauty contest where Nano ended up defeating her. After the two finally reconcile, Rentaro asks the other girls for permission to make Mimimi his newest girlfriend. They all happily agree, especially since they're still flattered by all the compliments Mimimi gave them during the contest. A little later, Mimimi concludes that they should be kissing Rentaro more often, since, in her eyes, that's the very definition of beauty. Kusuri then hands everyone a special lip balm that creates an overwhelming sensation of pleasure upon contact, causing each of the girls to experience an unbelievably intense reaction from their little kiss with Rentaro. Last but certainly not least, Mimimi finally gets her own special moment with Rentaro by sharing her very first kiss with him, making it an unforgettable and absolutely incredible experience. On another occasion, after Rentaro had to shave his head during the beauty contest to avoid being too handsome, he's left wearing nothing but a wig. To solve the problem, Kusuri comes up with yet another one of her drugs. However, Hahari suddenly decides to use it herself because she wants longer hair, and unfortunately, Kusuri isn't able to stop her in time. Seconds later, Hahari's hair wraps itself around her like a cocoon before rapidly expanding and attacking everyone in sight. Knowing exactly what kind of disaster is about to unfold, Kusuri immediately tells everyone to run. Once they're safely away, she explains that the hair doesn't think for itself. It simply acts on Hahari's most basic instincts, and since Hikari knows her mother better than anyone, she quickly realizes those instincts are tentacle-related fantasies. As everyone tries to escape, the massive hair tentacles capture them one by one, and before long, they spread across the entire planet. Rentaro only manages to escape because the Hanazono family happens to own a private helicopter, and Meido knows how to fly it. Determined to deal with the situation like the boyfriend he's supposed to be, Rentaro decides to head straight to the source of the problem, Hahari herself. After dramatically leaping from the helicopter, he doesn't exactly stick the landing. Fortunately, Hikari's father ends up waking him back up, or rather, giving him a helping hand so he can keep fighting. Finally standing before Hahari, Rentaro decides the best way to bring her back to her senses is with a kiss on the lips, and somehow, it actually works. From there, they deal with the out-of-control hair by stretching it all the way to the sun, where it's cut off and burns away on its own. The whole incident leaves Hahari feeling terribly guilty, but Rentaro shows her the news, proving that not a single person was injured. In fact, her enormous hair ended up stopping a global ice age, meaning she accidentally saved the entire planet. Right after that, the rest of the girls arrive to comfort and support her as well, leaving Hahari happier than ever. And just like that, Hahari Hanazono officially became the mother of the Rentaro family, or rather, the mother of all humanity. On a new school day, as Rentaro walks through the front gates, he recognizes one of his classmates. Her name is Meimei Kakure. Out of nowhere, a powerful gust of wind sends her into a panic over one thing and one thing only, her bangs. She's so focused on keeping them in place that she completely ignores the fact that her underwear is on full display. So distracted by her hair, she fails to notice an object hurtling straight toward her in the wind. Rentaro reacts without hesitation, diving on top of of her to keep her safe. Once he confirms she's unharmed, her bangs are blown aside, allowing their eyes to meet. The familiar choir rings out, electricity surges through both of them, and it's immediately clear that they're soulmates. Mime explains that she's incredibly shy and can't stand having people look at her, especially at her face, which is why she always hides behind her bangs. Rentaro tells her that it's a real shame because when he looked into her eyes, he thought she was absolutely beautiful. Hearing that immediately makes her flustered. Then, without warning, she vanishes, leaving nothing behind except a stuffed animal in her place. Later that day, Rentaro finds a letter and a plush toy inside his locker. In the letter, Mime explains that she knitted the plush herself as a thank you gift for protecting her earlier. When he tries to find her, Mime once again disappears in an instant, leaving another stuffed animal where she had been standing. After this happens several more times, Rentaro asks the other girls about her. The only information they can give him is that she's beautiful, has an even larger bust than Hikari, and an incredible figure. Oddly enough, that's all Rentaro needs to understand her. He realizes that people can't choose how they're born, and since Mime naturally possesses so many attention-grabbing features, it makes perfect sense that someone as shy as her would want to hide them. A little later, he finally manages to speak with her by making sure not to stand directly in front of her. He apologizes for complimenting her earlier. However, Mime tells him she was never upset. The truth is, she's actually in love with him, but confessing so suddenly makes her panic, causing her to disappear once again. When she reappears, she explains that it's simply a distraction technique she uses, leaving behind an adorable stuffed animal to draw people's attention away from herself. She then tells Rentaro that someone like her could never truly fall in love because she'd never be capable of having a normal relationship, so she asks him to forget everything she just said. Rentaro refuses. Standing firm, he promises to support her no matter what and happily returns her feelings. That only embarrasses Mime even more, making her disappear again. This time, though, she's much harder to find. Even so, Rentaro refuses to give up and sets out to search for her once more. Eventually, he realizes why he can't find her. She's been hiding directly behind him the entire time, so he starts spinning around over and over until she finally gets dizzy enough to slip up. Once she's standing in front of him again, Rentaro tells her that he doesn't care if she's shy, hides from people, or spends all her time running away from him. He'll always find her, and he promises that she deserves to fall in love just like anyone else. After they officially start dating, Mime accidentally has a wardrobe malfunction while running around, revealing beyond any doubt that her bust is well above a G-cup, leaving Hikari utterly defeated. Later on, Mime officially joins the rest of the girls, and Rentaro suggests they all play a game of hide-and-seek. Rentaro is chosen as the seeker, and one by one, he manages to find everyone, although most of the girls end up giving themselves away. Karane and Hikari simply can't resist clinging to each other. Kusuri and Mimimi fall asleep. Shizuka and Nano are discovered tucked away together like the world's cutest happy meal. Kurumi gives away her hiding spot after being unable to resist Hahari's enormous chest, while Meido and Iku leave a trail of sweat after spending far too long clinging to the ceiling. In the end, Mimi wins the game, and all of the girls congratulate her, making her feel even more like a true member of the Rentaro family. As everyone walks down the hallway together afterward, Rentaro deliberately lingers behind with Mimi. Out of nowhere, he surprises her with a kiss on the lips, explaining that he figured it would be better to kiss her before she had the chance to get embarrassed and disappear again. Just then, Mimimi walks over and asks if he's talking to himself. Rentaro freezes for a moment when he realizes he never got a response from Mimi because she'd already vanished once again. One day, Karane wakes up from a terrible dream, one that leaves her deeply troubled by her own insecurities about being a tsundere. When she joins the other girls to spend time together, that uneasy feeling never leaves her. She's realized that the more deeply she falls in love with Rentaro, the harder it becomes for her to express how she truly feels. By pure coincidence, Kusuri leaves behind an anti-tsundere potion. Overwhelmed by temptation and the pressure she's been feeling, Karane secretly drinks it before anyone notices. A moment later, everyone sees a massive orb of light appear above her. Kusuri immediately recognizes it as Karane's tsundere aura, which completely fades away just seconds later. Everyone is surprised to see Karane without her tsundere personality. While they enjoy her new demeanor, they all eventually agree that something feels off. They miss the old tsundere Karane because, despite her rough edges, she had countless lovable qualities. Kusuri immediately sets out to create a tsundere medicine, but Karane tells everyone she doesn't want to go back. For the first time, she feels like she can truly be herself. She was even able to tell Shizuka and Mimi that she wanted to learn how to knit. Seeing her like this, Rentaro takes her somewhere private and asks if she knows why he fell in love with her. Without waiting for an answer, he tells her it was simply because he loved her for who she was. She could be stubborn, kind, shy, and sometimes difficult to deal with, but every one of those traits made her incredibly adorable. It was that tsundere version of Karane that he fell in love with. So if, deep down, this is truly the person she wants to become, he'll support her until the very end and do his best to love this version of her just as much as before. But if she's only trying to change because she hates who she used to be, then he'll never accept it, because he refuses to let anyone, not even Karane herself, look down on the version of her that he treasures so much. Those words strike a chord deep within Karane. Through tears, she changes her mind and tells him that she wants to be the way she used to be, the person he originally fell in love with. After giving her a reassuring hug, Rentaro takes her back to Kusuri Kusuri, who manages to finish the medicine during the commercial break. Unfortunately, when Kurani drinks it, nothing happens. Everyone is left disappointed, realizing that her tsundere nature may have disappeared completely. With no other options left, Kurani stays at the Hanazono household, and Rentaro goes with her because he absolutely refuses to leave Hahari unsupervised. When Hahari invites Kurani to take a bath with her, Rentaro immediately steps in, declaring that she'll have to go through him first. That burst of determination quickly melts away because of how much they all care about each other, and before long, Rentaro and Kurani end up sharing a passionate kiss. Afterward, Rentaro, Hikari, and Kurane all try various ways to bring back her natural tsundere personality, but none of their attempts work. Later, while bathing, Hikari has a heartfelt conversation with Kurane, assuring her that she'll always support her, just as Kurane once supported her when she needed it most. As expected, the series' trademark absurd comedy kicks in once again, with the girls' bath turning into another over-the-top misunderstanding, while Hahari's attempt to secretly watch them ends in her comically suffering yet another dramatic nosebleed. Later on, everyone gathers together once again, and Rentaro reveals that he has a plan to bring Kurane's tsundere personality back. The idea is surprisingly simple. Each of the girls can generate a certain amount of tsundere energy. They'll channel all of that energy into Rentaro, who will take both of Kusuri's medicines before redirecting it all into Kurani. The reason for doing it this way is that Kurani is currently too weak. If they tried to give the energy directly to her, the worst-case scenario is that she'd explode like a firework. In other words, Rentaro is basically pulling a Goku and making a spirit bomb. The girls are a little worried about Kurumi since she's also pretty tsundere, but Kusuri reassures them that Kurumi's pekodere personality is driven by hunger, so she'll be perfectly fine. The moment the tsundere festival begins, each of the girls starts acting as tsundere as possible in order to transfer their energy. Unsurprisingly, it's an exhausting task that requires an incredible amount of effort. As Rentaro absorbs more and more of that energy, he finally understands just how much Kurani has been carrying all this time. Once he's gathered enough, he passes it on to her while telling her just how much he loves her. Whether the plan succeeds, however, depends entirely on how badly Kurani herself wants to return to normal. That prompts everyone to cheer her on, shouting words of encouragement from the bottom of their hearts. Thankfully, tsundere Kurani finally returns, and everyone celebrates with overwhelming joy. With peace restored at last, the girls gather to talk about what it was like when each of them confessed their feelings to Rentaro. During the conversation, they realize they don't actually tell him "I love you" nearly as often as they should. So, the moment Rentaro comes back, each of the girls takes a turn spending a special moment with him, expressing just how deeply they love him in her own unique and heartfelt way. As for Kurani, even after everything that happened, and despite still being a tsundere, she gathers the courage to tell Rentaro that she loves absolutely everything about him. Once every girl has finished telling Rentaro what they love, admire, and appreciate about him, it's finally his turn to respond. Rentaro calls each of them by name and tells them that he feels exactly the same. From there, he begins listing every quality, every personality trait, every little habit, and every tiny detail he treasures about each one of them. Finally, to sum it all up, he tells them that he loves absolutely everything about every single one of them. After receiving what can only be described as an entire Bible's worth of heartfelt compliments, the girls are left completely smitten, falling even more deeply in love with Rentaro than ever before. In a change of scene, the love god once again explains what a soulmate is, saying that it's the one and only special partner in love that every person is assigned at birth. The only exception is Rentaro Aijo, a boy who has a whole 100 soulmates. The love god is aware Rentaro has sworn to love everything about all the soulmates he meets and make them as happy as they can be, and currently he's met 11 of them. However, for some reason, the love god notices some new girls he hadn't seen before, like a cowgirl named Natty, a little girl named Lin Chio, and two other girls named Momi Momiji and Yasashiki Yamame. The love god can't even believe what he's seeing, but the scene abruptly changes to show us a reporter in a shopping mall. The woman talks about a new section called Love Talk and searches for some girls to hear all about their love stories. All of Rentaro's girlfriends are waiting for him while he's in the bathroom, so the reporter decides to approach them to do candid interviews for her section. When the woman asks them if any of them has a boyfriend, the girls immediately give her an unanimous answer, letting her know that all of them have a boyfriend. Not suspecting a thing, the reporter gets really excited because she's sure they'll get to hear a whole bunch of sickeningly sweet relationship talk. Without wasting any time, she approaches Hahari first to ask her what's a recent incident that made her feel her boyfriend really cherishes her. Hahari tells her that one of her heels broke when they were out on a date, but as she was about to fall, her boyfriend swooped her up in his arms. The reporter clearly likes her story, saying that he was like a prince on a white steed for sure. However, Hahari continues the story and mentions that he then carried her in his arms for the rest of the date. That small detail leaves the reporter a little confused, and it makes her wonder if her boyfriend is like the hero in DQ1 or something. She quickly puts that aside to continue with the interviews, and this time she decides to ask Mimi because the show needs relatability, and she thinks they should get it from this shy, reserved girl. Mimi shyly tells her that her bra hooks came off one time, but her boyfriend held it together the whole day. The reporter mentions that he must be really nice, and tells her that if he held onto it instead of using a safety pin, then they must be quite the lovey-dovey PDA couple. Mimi denies denies it and explains that safety pins don't really work, even when she uses dozens of them, so he held onto it with sheer strength and willpower. The reporter simply stares at Meme's chest, kind of intimidated and wondering how much she's packing in there. Meme nervously tells her that it's not as much as she thinks, but she gets so embarrassed that she simply decides to disappear. The reporter tries to quickly move on from that and approaches Shizuka this time, wanting to hear another love story. She's a little surprised when she sees that Shizuka is using her phone to speak, but she decides to listen either way. Shizuka tells her that in order to keep up with her love for reading, her beloved boyfriend memorized a bunch of books, scribbled notes on his hand, and stuff until he was covered in writing from head to toe. The reporter thinks that sounds a little cursed, but she quickly masks her fear and tells her she has such a thoughtful boyfriend. She then moves on to the next girl, asking Nano about her love story, hoping that it's at least a little more normal than the others. Nano tells her that she and her boyfriend were crossing a bridge on a date one time, and he noticed that she was terrified by how high up they were. The reporter immediately assumes that he then held her hand until they got to the other shore, but Nano denies it and explains that he instead gave her a ride and swam to the other shore. That's clearly not the story she was expecting, so the reporter decides to ask Natty instead, but she's surprised to find out she's actually a foreigner, which means they have an international romance here. Unfortunately, the reporter can barely understand what she's saying, but Natty gladly tells her about her story. She mentions that she has this real cowboy look going on, but her rodeo skills are not nearly as good, so her darling boyfriend entered this United States rodeo training with her. That doesn't sound so bad, so the reporter happily assumes that she got horse riding lessons with her boyfriend. However, Natty denies it and clarifies that she rode her darling boyfriend instead. The reporter forces herself to stay positive and tells her that it sounds like a lovely riding date. Hikari excitedly says that she'd like to ride her darling all night as well, but the reporter immediately interrupts her and decides to interview Yamami, hoping to find at least one normal love story. Yamami shyly tells her that the boy she's dating has a big heart, and he's willing to prop up a girl like her. The reporter happily tells her that nothing beats a boy who can be her pillar of support. Yamami agrees with her and tells her that her boyfriend caught her when she was about to fall onto a bug and broke his bones doing it. As soon as she hears that story, Iku sticks to Yamami's back and walks closely behind her, maybe hoping that she falls on her and breaks her bones too. The reporter desperately moves on and asks Hikari about her love story this time. Hikari tells her that she set up a perfect trap to get them some fun time in a room together, but it failed because he resisted with every fiber of his being. Even so, it showed her just how much he loves her and cherishes her. The reporter actually finds that adorable, so she asks her if he kept his eyes closed with all he had, but Hikari explains that he just banged his head on the wall until he passed out. That's not what she wanted to hear, so the reporter loses her patience and decides to ask Karani instead. Karani tells her that the other day, she bashfully smacked her boyfriend and hurt him a little, but he didn't get mad at her at all. The reporter gets excited and mentions that he has the heart to let some little things slide, so he must be very kind. Karani quickly corrects herself and clarifies that when she said little, she meant compound fractures all over his body. The reporter simply shouts that he must be a hind-hearted monster, and the next girl she interviews is Mimimi. Mimimi tells her that one time, a cup of tea slipped out of her hands thanks to her ultra-smooth skin, and it was about to stain her positively beautiful outfit. The reporter quickly assumes that her boyfriend braved the heat and took the brunt of it, but Mimimi clarifies that he actually sucked it all up, leaving no drop of tea behind. The reporter exclaims that it sounds like he's a Dyson vacuum cleaner and quickly moves on, ready to interview Momiji next. Momiji tells her that as an aspiring massage therapist, she needed to practice her forearm massage on someone. The reporter assumes that her boyfriend then worked out like crazy and became an iron-armed robot for her. To her surprise, Momiji tells her that the robot part isn't wrong, but he was more like one of the straw hats. The reporter has to pause the interviews for a moment, wondering if every boyfriend has turned into a monster lately. She has no idea that this is all about one specific boyfriend though, and that would surely make her lose her mind. Still in disbelief, she refuses to accept this and asks the next girl, Chio, who tells her that her boyfriend crossed mountains and rivers chasing a bird that stole these spectacles. When it's Kurumi's turn, she tells her that her boyfriend went into the turf of some rabid boars to pick her a legendary mushroom. Iku then mentions that, in her case, she tends to go too far in training, so her boyfriend used his own body to measure how much the human body can take. Kusuri tells her that she was testing one of her experiments, but the reporter doesn't even let her finish and assumes she was using her boyfriend like a guinea pig. At this point, the reporter is already exhausted, but she still gathers the strength to interview the last of the girls, May. May tells her that when she and her boyfriend went on a date to a scenic location, he'd prepared a surprise in order to help her open her stubbornly closed eyes. The reporter finally finds a little hope, thinking that maybe her boyfriend isn't like all the others. Without a doubt, she asks her what the surprise was, and May explains that when they reached the top of a hill towards the end of the date, he told her that he'd actually been in a Frieza costume the whole day. That immediately made her open her eyes, but the reporter exclaims that it sounds more like a prank than a surprise. She and all her team are completely exhausted because she's talked to all these people and gotten zero relatable anecdotes. This will be a sorry episode at this rate, but just as she's about to give up, she sees Rentaro, who's finally back after going to the bathroom. The reporter immediately approaches him, and Rentaro actually recognizes the show, so he tells her that he's been watching since he was 0 years old. She simply laughs, not taking him seriously, and asks him if he happens to have a girlfriend. When he confirms it, the reporter internally sings victory, because he's the very picture of a wholesome young lad, simple and straightforward. She's sure there is no chance he'd ever be going out with a monster, so she decides to interview him, wanting him to give them a relatable, romantic anecdote that'll turn this episode around. She asks him what makes his girlfriend amazing, but just like the last time, Rentaro endlessly lists all the qualities of all his girlfriends, not stopping for even a moment. The reporter is forced to interrupt him, saying that it sounds like a monster to her. However, Rentaro gets furious and takes a hold of the camera, asking her how she dares to call his cutest humanoid girlfriends monsters. He immediately ends the transmission, and the love god confirms that there are girls we haven't met yet. The narrator tells him that according to the information he just received, the director is messing around and doing whatever he wants. The love god complains and curses Sato Hikaru, but he gets frustrated and just asks them to do what they want. After that, the timeline goes back to normal, so Rentaro still has only 11 girlfriends. He visits his uncle Hiro after a long time, because even though they live close by, he hadn't come to hang out in a while ever since he got busy. Rentaro doesn't mind visiting, but he still wonders why his uncle suddenly asked him to watch his daughter while he was away, since he's never even met her before. Hiro used to always go on about what a good kid he was, and all he did was save him from a tanker once. He decides not to question it anymore, because his daughter, Chio, is his cousin, and only just got into middle school, so there's no way something will happen here. However, as soon as he opens the door, Rentaro clicks with Chio, which lets him know she is one of his soulmates. Rentaro doesn't say a word and silently wonders if this is really happening, because she only recently stopped using those cute little red backpacks. He starts sweating when he thinks about it, wondering if the production committee is really going to allow this. Having no other choice, Rentaro tries to act normal and introduces himself after she does, but as soon as he steps in the house, some marbles on the floor make him fall. Chio manages to catch him before he falls, but Rentaro immediately jumps away from her, crashing into the wall. That clearly takes her by surprise, so she tells him that there was no need for him to throw himself out like that. When she approaches him to check on him, her expression instantly changes, which kind of scares Rentaro and confuses him. Chio apologizes and explains that when she sees something disorderly, she gets this urge to fix it. Rentaro then notices that his shirt came untucked after the impact, and she looks really bothered by it. Chio can't take it anymore, so she decides to fix it herself right away until she's satisfied with how it looks. Once she does, she suddenly realizes what she did and apologizes, saying that she was rude for doing that. Rentaro reassures her to make her feel better and decides to move on, so they go inside to have some tea while Chio does her homework. She explains that she's the class representative, so she needs to set an example for her classmates. Rentaro isn't surprised that she's the class rep, since she does seem like a good fit, diligent, and responsible. While they speak, a stick suddenly falls on the table and knocks over the tea, staining Rentaro's uniform. That immediately upsets Chio, so Rentaro has no choice but to take a shower, though it makes him question what he's doing, since he's supposed to be looking after her, and it's more like she's looking after him. He apologizes to her while he's still in the shower, saying that he's being so much trouble when she just started middle school. Chio dismisses the apology and tells him that she's used to it because it's just her and her dad here. Rentaro just then remembers the fact that his uncle is a single father, and Chio explains that as his only child, she has to be responsible. For some reason, the water in the shower suddenly goes cold, making Rentaro scream. Chio tells him that she'll go check the boiler, but when she tries to exit the bathroom, the doorknob gets stuck. Having no other choice, she asks him to just wear his clothes and warm up a little, but even after doing that, Rentaro is still shivering. Chio pales when she sees him like that, because she was supposed to entertain their guest, but now he's going to fall sick because of them. Under the pressure of having to be responsible, Chio decides to hug him to warm him up. That clearly surprises Rentaro, because she's not even half his size, and she's still trying so hard for him. He apologizes once again for being such a handful, and Chio thinks that he's just going to say the same as everyone else. To her surprise, Rentaro tells her that she doesn't have to hold herself responsible for everything, because she's only in her first year of middle school, so she's still too young. Rentaro apologizes, saying that he may be speaking out of turn, but it seems to him like she tells herself she's an only child, a class rep, and is trying to fill shoes that are a little too big for her when she's still so small. Without another word, he hugs her again, not to offer warmth, but comfort instead, taking her by surprise. Chio starts reflecting on her life, knowing that at first, all she really did was fix some minor things she thought were out of place, and people kept telling her how responsible she was and how proud they were of her. Of course, the praise made her happy, but at some point, she started feeling like she had to live up to their expectations. Rentaro only met her today, and he's only known her for less than an hour, but he still was able to see that. Chio knows that this is not okay, and it's abnormal and unacceptable, because they're cousins after all. She completely forgets about it the moment she realizes her glasses are gone, and she can't see a thing. Chio panics at first, and then simply bursts into tears, letting her feelings out and saying that she loves him. Rentaro has no idea what's going on at first, but he still tries to make her calm down, promising that he'll hear her out. Just then, his uncle Hiro shows up and asks him if he liked that parade of heart-fluttering events, confessing that he planned it all. Rentaro realizes that his uncle set it all up from the moment he stepped into the house. Hiro explains that Chiyo is his number one, so only the goodest boy he knows can have her. He was going to keep them two apart until they were adults, since he didn't want him seeing her as a little sister and crossing her off the list. However, he's all surrounded by girls these days, so he had him panicking, and he had to do something. He assumed all those girls being there meant none of them are his girlfriend yet, so he thought his daughter had a chance. To his surprise, Rintaro clarifies that they're all his girlfriends, and even though it doesn't make any sense to him, Hiro tells him that in that case, adding a cousin to the mix shouldn't be a problem. Rintaro admits that it doesn't make any sense at all, but since they're crying so much, he decides to comfort Chiyo, putting her glasses back on her. As soon as he does that, Chiyo stops crying and returns to her senses, wondering what's wrong with her. She quickly tries to ask him to forget what she said before, but Rintaro decides to apologize to his uncle, saying that he can't go out with his daughter like that. He explains that it's not right for him to disregard Chiyo's feelings and pressure her into a romance, because real love is free of influence and shackles, and it belongs to the lovers and nobody else. Hiro bursts into tears after hearing that, but Chiyo keeps thinking about his words, realizing that her love belongs to her and nobody else. That's why she decides to confess her feelings once again, and tells him that she loves him, not because she got butterflies from her father's schemes, but because of him and the person he is. After all, he said the words she always wanted to hear, and even though they're cousins and he might think she's out of her mind, she still loves him. With tears in her eyes, she asks him to please go out with her, and Rintaro just then realizes that he was the one letting himself be shackled by needless stuff. Now full of determination, he tells her that it doesn't matter if they're cousins, because all that matters is that he loves her, and he would love to go out with her.